Well, for this last session, we wanted to bring all of our speakers up here, do a little panel discussion. We're now kind of moved through the house. We're now wandering out into the backyard. And the backyard is the place where we recreate, where we enjoy leisure time together, in some cases entertainment. And so this is sort of a catch-all for all of those subjects. We've got a number of questions that I'm going to toss out to the panel. And we've got about 20 minutes. We may not get to all of these. And this is obviously a really big topic, but we hope we can at least give you some thoughts on some of these areas and some wisdom. And so I'm gonna seek to really focus on some of the practical questions that I think a lot of us as households ask when it comes to this area. So welcome to all of our panelists, Pastor Luke, Pastor Taylor, Cassi, Kevin, and
one of these chairs has a broken leg. And so someone might be going down.
Just waiting to find out. All right. Well, let's just start out with this one, and we could take obviously a lot of time on this one, but I want to frame the conversation this way by just talking about when we talk about recreation and leisure, what is recreation and why is it important for us as Christians? Why is recreation important? Why is it important? I have one no vote from Kevin.
I'm not doing it.
Andy, you want to check their two mics? He said yes. Sing something into your microphone, so you...
No.
We're good now? All right. Thoughts on why?
The big picture is whether you eat or drink, whatever you do all to the glory of God.
Amen.
And a big part of our lives as human beings includes recreation and leisure, which can be done to the glory of God.
Amen.
That's the big picture.
Amen. And even the concept of recreation, right? You can see it in the word, recreation. It's a renewal, and I think one of the things that that's going to be important because we're going to dive into some details on how we think about recreation in our households, how we make choices that we make. But before we move to things like what are the standards that we have, what are the practices that we keep when it comes to recreation? Recreation and leisure is first of all an attitude of the soul. It's more than just simply practices. It's a mindset that we have to develop, recognizing that God has made us as embodied beings who need rest, who need renewal, and so that's where we have to start before we move into all the particulars.
And we know that because how many of you have been on vacation, you get home and you say you need a vacation for vacation, right? So just being in a different changing your circumstances doesn't necessarily equate to rest or recreation, because it's important to point out that it is a condition of the heart.
Good. How about this one? What does it mean to recreate to the glory of God? How do we enjoy God in enjoying recreation? What does that look like?
I think it has to do with a lot of what we've been talking about tonight. A heart that is glad to receive as the gift that it is, as the gifts that God gives. So a heart that is gladly receiving His gifts in creation, as well as the gift of God Himself, and then having our priorities in order, so that we don't veer off into, like Romans 1 talks about, worshiping the creation rather than the Creator. So seeking first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you. Our hearts are aligned in their proper orbit with Christ at the center, and if that's there, then we can enjoy and recreate to His glory.
That's good. I want to give a shout out here to Joe Rigney's book that we gave you, Strangely Bright. Joe has a chapter in that book where he gives an example of what does it look like to enjoy baseball to the glory of God. And I don't know if you're a baseball fan. I'm a huge baseball fan. Just so happens that Joe and I are both Houston Astros fans. And so that chapter means especially a lot to me. But he goes through an example of what does it look like to enjoy baseball to the glory of God? Can we enjoy something like recreation, sport, leisure, something enjoyable to the glory of God? And he gives a number of helpful points there in that chapter. I don't remember what chapter it is, but you have the book. But he talks about in something like baseball, some sort of recreation, we need to receive it as a picture of spiritual reality and as an on-ramp to spiritual virtue. Right? So the recreation, the things that we do, in the doing of those things, there are all sorts of godly virtues that are created and cultivated. Right? Teamwork, perseverance, patience, even humility, and what does it look like to respond when you lose? Right, all of those things are incredible spiritual virtues that are learned. We also share with other people when we recreate. We enjoy together something that God has given. And there's something about sharing something with other people that maximizes an enjoyment of God. And then he talks about enjoying baseball as a way of anticipating the future. The fact that we don't always win, but there's going to come a time when, as believers, we are living in the victorious new creation where God is all in all. And so there's some great helpful thoughts there in Joe's book that I would commend to you.
Yeah, that's good. Along that same line, I'll get some hate for this, but I hate soccer.
Amen.
Okay. But our boys are starting to play baseball. What I love about that, along what he was saying about from the Rigney book, is the kind of virtues that can instill, the kind of godly virtues that can something like as silly as baseball can instill in my boys, which I love. If my son is the best player on the team, he's still going to fail the majority of the time at the plate in front of everybody. I mean, the best player on a Major League Baseball team right now is probably hitting around 300. That means that 7 out of 10 times they step up to the plate in front of a stadium full of people, they're failing. The kind of resiliency that has to build into you, that's one godly virtue.
Yeah.
Like you said, the other one, teamwork, all the other kinds of things you could spell out. But I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Soccer can't do that for you, man. No, dude.
Wow.
Who likes a sport where it can end 0-0? That's lame. I would rather lose than tie 0-0. That's like kissing your sister.
Wow.
And we already talked about the bedroom. You cannot do that.
Hey, cut his mic. He's done.
Rebuttal from Kevin and Cassie.
I'm being set up by the sound guy. He doesn't even turn my mic on. Unmute me.
There's a conspiracy.
Check.
I paid him.
Check.
If my chair breaks, I quit.
So I do want to ask Kevin and Cassie this particular question, because I think those that know Kevin and Cassie and Grant and Jackson know that you guys have done such a wonderful job just thinking through, like, what does it look like for us to play soccer, and what does that
Sorry,
look?
Luke.
What was that?
Sorry, Luke.
Yeah. and so the question I want to throw out is, how should Christian parents and families think about choices of sports, arts, extracurricular activities, especially in regards to things like travel? That's a big question right now, travel sports, especially when it happens on a Sunday, and the amount of time that sports can take. Do you have any just wisdom off the top of your head from your lived experience that can help us here?
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that everything we do, we are, like Luke already said, doing it for the glory of God, and we're also doing it on mission. So we are a family on mission, and so, and it's, I think, not just a question that you ask once and then you're done with it, but you have to reevaluate it as your kids get older and their teams change or their dynamics change. And so I think for us, it's always just trying to be very missional where we are. So if we're with the team, as much as our budget and time can allow, like, we're going to participate in the team meals after the game because we're seeing it as like we're here for a purpose. We're trying to reach out to families, and we're trying to share the gospel and live the gospel in front of them. And so, I think that's the biggest thing for us is that, it's all for a purpose, and the purpose is not that they will make it to the, MLS or go play overseas. And, so.
Yeah, I think part of that is, and in our own boys' lives, we've had people come to this church because of them playing soccer. We had a kid get baptized here in this church because through relationships that we built on the soccer field, on the sidelines, coaching, I coached for about 10 years, that they begin to see Christ in us on the sidelines as parents, or when I coach as a coach, and they're like, this coach is different, this coach actually cares about me. And so all of a sudden, like, is that family comes to this place, starts going to Pursuit, gets baptized. So eternity can change through how we handle sports or any other extracurricular activities. Because we homeschool, the other thing is why it's so missional for us is we are just around believers. And we even live in a neighborhood that is 80% Airbnb homes. And so, like, loving your neighbor, our neighbors change every week, and sometimes there's no neighbors. And so the idea of, like, where are we going to find non-believers to love and to hopefully bring to the kingdom of God? For us, it's sports. And now with that, we have to balance that, because we have a lot of games on Sunday. Just a couple weeks ago, we had a game at like 9 o'clock over by the airport. Then we advanced to the championship game, and so that was right like 2 o'clock or something like that. So we came and we left the team as soon as the game was over. I was like, Coach, I got to take Jackson. We're heading to church. We come to church in our soccer uniforms. People look at us weird. And then as soon as the church is over, we're right back to the soccer field to go play in the championship game. And so it's a lot of like that type of crazy things. But we value church attendance. There's probably one game, usually like in Miami or Jacksonville or Gainesville, one game per season we have to miss church. And usually one of us goes and the other one stays or whatever. But we value church. There's times where it's like Monday, Wednesday, Thursday were practices, and we have services here on Wednesday night for youth or for young adults. And so we just told the coach, hey, if you want him on your team, because this is a highly competitive team, he's not coming on Wednesday. We do church. Church is our priority. And so he got accepted on the team, and so we just skipped Wednesday practices. And so it is a priority, but for us, sports has been the number one by far avenue for us to reach the unchurched and bring them to church, and it's been a blessing for us.
I'll just add a note about Sundays too. So it helps to kind of know up front to maybe ask the coach, what's the expectation? What are Sundays going to look like? Is it going to be an every Sunday morning thing? Because then I would really caution you, like that might not be the best choice if it's going to be an every Sunday morning thing. The other thing to think about is if it's an occasional Sunday thing, what can happen is then, you have your Sunday game, and then maybe the next week, family's in town, so we don't go to church then. And then the next week, somebody was sick. And then the next week, we wanted to go to Disney or whatever. So before you know it, it's been 5 or 6 weeks and you've missed church, that many times. So I think if you're going to prioritize, where you maybe have to miss a Sunday morning because you've made a commitment to the team and you feel, that you need to honor that one, you have to be very careful to guard the rest of your Sundays and not allow other things to take you away, because we don't want to neglect the habit of meeting together. It's a command for us to gather together, and we want to make sure that we're, honoring that command and gathering with each other.
That's good. I want to point out a couple of things that Kevin and Cassie said, just to bridge them to things we've been saying here the last couple of days. But one, notice that the claims of God are total in every area of life. So even when it comes to recreation and leisure, this is not something that we can segment off from the rest of our lives, right? The mission and purpose of God continues to pervade in the way that they're thinking through how do we make these choices for our own family, and so I think that's really helpful and key to notice. And also the other thing they said is and Luke brought this up too in his talk, we're always worshiping something. And so even as they make decisions about what does recreation, sport, leisure, entertainment look like, we recognize we're always worshiping something, and so we want to keep God central in everything that we're doing, and so that means other things will need to be sacrificed in order to glorify God properly.
And I think, too, to add to that, our kids are always worshiping something, too. So we have to be very careful to make sure that they're worshiping the right things and that we're bringing them, as they get older, into these conversations about why we're choosing certain things and why we're, saying no to other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one more quick thing is one of the things that we really value and we have really poured that into our kids is like you represent Christ on the field. We all that's nothing that's shocking to you guys, but what happened as a result of them habitually doing that is I know Grant, whenever he was playing back when he was in high school and he was playing on a competitive team, is they would ask him to pray. They would call him Pastor Grant because of how he acted on the field, how he acted and to me, like he thought that was funny and kind of weird. That like makes me weep. Like that's my boy. And then like Jackson, same thing is whenever his team, when they pray before a game, it's him. When Grant's team prayed before a game, it was Grant. Like it's our kids. And so like that makes like maybe that 2 Sunday services per year that we got to miss, that makes it worthwhile because they're praying in front of these guys who don't believe, and yet it just watches them kind of maybe live their faith a little bit in a way, and kind of it puts them to the test daily. And so it's one of those things where we homeschool. They have very little connection with unbelievers, and so as a family, how can we somewhat manage and facilitate introducing them as kids to unbelievers when we're always trying to like kind of shelter them? And so it's like it gives us that balance where we can say, okay, on this field, this is where it's going to happen. So how do you play like the Lord? How do you honor the Lord? How do you glorify the Lord? How do you lead people to Christ that way? Since it's one of your passion areas, so how can we coach them to do that? So sports for us has been a huge thing, and why I think it's a lot of their friends come from that too. So
good. Taylor and Luke, when it comes to entertainment, so it's connected with recreation. Often the two things can be lumped together, but when it comes to entertainment, so think here things like movies, TV, music, how should we think wisely about our choices as Christians in like 2 minutes?
I think first thing that comes to mind is to avoid a kind of legalistic tendency that we all have to put some sort of human standard on movies, and Doug mentions this in the book, where we just accept these PG-13 ratings, R ratings, and those are arbitrary. Somebody made them. They're not according to God's word. If you read the Bible, it's more than R-rated a lot of times. And so that's the first thing is we're always looking for some sort of, man-made standard that we can cling on to. The Bible gives us principles. It gives us the book of Proverbs. We need to apply wisdom. And so if we're talking about family discipleship, use it as an opportunity for discipleship, because like Luke was saying earlier, you can't avoid seeing everything. You're going to see things, and so use that as an opportunity to disciple your children. So if there's a racy ad that comes on the screen, talk to your kids. What's being sold here? What's the lie that's being put out here, and what does God's word have to say about that, and why is that a better way? So use it for discipleship. Other thoughts would be think what message is being preached in this story that we're beholding. We become like what we behold. That's a key message throughout the Bible. We become like what we behold. So what we behold does affect us. So think about the stories and how they're shaping us. Know your own and your children's sensitivities. So this is what gets back to. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Those are some initial thoughts.
And some of the wisdom that you're talking about is making distinctions of things like when it comes to movies that all depictions in entertainment aren't equal. So vulgarity and violence and sex in movies are not equal. In the sense that I can watch a violent movie like Gladiator, and I see violence, but that man really isn't killing that other man. Or even if there's heavy vulgarity, that man's cursing out that other man, but it's not really actually being said in anger. He's an actor. But if there's sex in the movie, that really actually is happening. It's not being faked. That man and that woman are, to use the biblical term, fornicating on screen for the entertainment of an audience. That's not being faked. So there's a difference there, and things like that need to be avoided, especially for men who are primarily visual creatures. And then, like Taylor said, knowing the sensitivities of your children and yourself to be able to determine what you're going to expose them to and when. And then using those as conversation pieces to, like he said, talk about this. What's the worldview that's being sold to me here? That's a great way to train your children and to sharpen your own skills. I know the Woods have always done a great job of that.
Shout out.
Shout out.
Good job, Woods. So in the minute we have left here, the unwanted guest here in the backyard is gluttony. Why is gluttony the unwanted guest when it comes to entertainment and recreation?
It's a lack of self-control. It's totally unrestrained, impulsive grasping of anything with throwing off all guardrails. And that can be applied to food, but it can be applied to entertainment. It can be applied to social media, our phones, screens, video games, any kind of entertainment. And so the question that I think this is a simple question to ask to evaluate where we're at with a certain thing that we might be questioning. Am I addicted to this? Am I a slave to it? Can I quit? Can I quit? If I can't, all right, I need to put some guardrails in place and have some accountability here so that I can step back, detox, and then reevaluate my life moving forward.
Good. Well, there's so much more, obviously, we could say, and we next time we'll leave longer for our panel discussion. But we do have our STUMO college students who are helping with our kids. They've got to go, so we want to make sure we get you to get your kids so they can go. But let me give a couple of announcements here.